Tonight on Silent Fame, we're not chasing gossip. We're opening the files Hollywood buried. 10 love stories, 10 careers built under pressure, and 10 couples who had to choose between fame and truth. Some hid to survive. Some went public and got punished for it. And some proved love can outlive the spotlight. Watch to the end, because Couple Nurse 10 will break you, then put you back together. Hit subscribe and let's begin. 1. RuPaul and George LeBar, the loudest icon, with the quietest husband. RuPaul built an empire by being impossible to ignore. A 6-foot-something silhouette in heels, a laugh that cuts through TV speakers, a face that dared America to stop flinching. But here's the twist. Silent Fame loves most. Behind the most visible queer star on the planet is a man who barely wants to be seen at all. George LeBar wasn't chasing red carpets. He wasn't chasing Hollywood. He was chasing silence, wide open space, dust, distance. And that contrast became their secret weapon. RuPaul could be glitter in the spotlight because somewhere far away there was someone grounded enough to hold the whole thing steady. But don't mistake private for easy. For decades, RuPaul's existence was treated like a threat. Drag was called dangerous, immoral, too much. People wanted him entertaining, but not human. They praised the costume while denying the man inside it. And when your career is built on being different, the world doesn't just watch you. It waits for a reason to punish you. So RuPaul learned control, boundaries, a love life that didn't belong to tabloids. Then came the modern backlash era, where even queer icons get dragged for not being perfect. Business decisions, land, money, politics. Suddenly, the internet wanted to put a purity test on a person who spent his life fighting to exist. And through all that noise, Georges stayed where he always was, out of frame, out of reach, refusing to become content. That's the real tragedy and the real romance. RuPaul gave the world everything, but still had to protect the one thing that actually mattered. Because fame doesn't just celebrate you, it audits you. So tell us, does RuPaul's extreme privacy make their love stronger? Or does it feel like hiding in a new way? And can an LGBTQ+ icon be complicated without being canceled? Drop your take below, hit subscribe, and stay with Silent Fame. Because the loudest legends often live their truest lives in silence. 2. Tom Ford and Richard Buckley, love at first sight. Then, 35 years of quiet devotion. Tom Ford sold seduction to the world. He turned fashion into heat, made luxury feel like a dare, and taught Hollywood how to look expensive. But the most cinematic thing he ever did wasn't a campaign. It was stepping into an elevator. One ride, one glance. Richard Buckley, older, sharper, a fashion editor with eyes that saw through performance. And Tom later admitted he knew instantly, that's the one. Not that's the moment. Not that's the headline. That's the one. And that kind of certainty is terrifying when you're gay in an industry built on illusion. Back then, being openly in love wasn't brand-friendly. It was risky. It was limiting. It was a label people used to shrink you. So they built their relationship like a fortress, private, disciplined, almost defiant in its normalcy. No constant couple PR. No selling romance for attention. Just decades of showing up again and again when nobody was clapping. Because here's the part fans romanticize but rarely understand. When you're powerful, people don't just want your success. They want access. They want proof. They want to consume your intimacy like it's a product. Tom and Richard refused. They built a life, a family, a son, and then the heartbreak that doesn't come with a runway soundtrack. Richard died in 2021. After 35 years, Tom Ford, Mr. Perfect Image, was suddenly a single father, sitting in grief that no amount of tailoring could hide. The world knows him as polished, but love left him raw. And that's the tragedy. You can survive the closet, the judgment, the whispers, and still lose the person who made survival worth it. So what hits you harder, love at first sight, or love that lasts long enough to break you when it ends? Was their privacy romantic, or was it armor? Comment your truth, subscribe, and stay with Silent Fame, because some love stories don't need headlines to be legendary. 3. Anderson Cooper and Benjamin Maisani. The breakup that turned into a family. Anderson Cooper has reported wars, disasters, and chaos with a calm voice that never shakes. But the part of his life that shook people the most wasn't on CNN. It was what happened after love ended. Benjamin Maisani wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't chasing fame. He was the kind of partner the camera can't easily turn into a storyline. Steady, private, allergic to spectacle. They were together for years, mostly out of the tabloid circus, in that glass closet space where the public suspects. But you never confirm, because confirmation becomes a weapon. Because for a long time, being openly gay in mainstream media wasn't just personal, it was professional. One wrong headline, and suddenly you're biased, agenda-driven, controversial. The same world that demanded truth from Anderson didn't always want truth about Anderson. Then they broke up. And that's where the story should have ended. Clean, quiet, separate lives. But instead, they did something that confuses people who only understand love as romance. Benjamin stayed. Not as a headline, as family. When Anderson became a dad, Benjamin was there, co-parenting, supporting, building a home that didn't look traditional but felt brutally real. The internet didn't know what to do with it. Some called it beautiful, others called it sad. Why stay? Are they still together? Is this healthy? And suddenly a quiet, mature arrangement became a debate battlefield. Because society loves happy endings, but it hates complicated ones. Their choice is a kind of rebellion, refusing to let a breakup erase history, refusing to let love become meaningless just because it changed shape. In a world obsessed with labels, they chose something messier, something human. So tell us, can your ex become your family without the romance? Is that the most evolved kind of love, or a slow heartbreak disguised as loyalty? Drop your opinion in the comments, hit subscribe, and stay with Silent Fame. Because the most radical relationships don't fit inside a headline. 4. Jim Parsons and Todd Spiewak, the world's biggest sitcom, and a love story written in footnotes. For years, Jim Parsons was America's safest kind of obsession, the brilliant, awkward genius on the biggest sitcom on TV. Sheldon was merch, memes, money, an entire machine that ran on the illusion that its stars were harmless, relatable, and neatly packaged. And that's exactly why Jim kept his real life in a locked drawer, while whispers floated anyway, the kind that never prove anything, but never leave you alone. Because in the 2000s, Hollywood still had a rule it rarely said out loud. A straight-looking leading man sells easier. A gay headline could turn into a marketing problem overnight. Not because audiences can't handle it, but because executives panic, sponsors flinch, and gossip sites sharpen their knives. So Jim played the long game. Show up, be brilliant, stay vague. Meanwhile, Todd Spiewak, an art director far from the spotlight, was already there. Not as a secret, but as a life. Morning coffee, dogs, laundry, a normal love in a business addicted to drama. They met back in 2002 on a blind date at a karaoke bar. Cute, almost too ordinary for two people living inside a cultural phenomenon. Then came the most silent fame detail of all. Jim didn't come out with a cover story, a tearful interview, or a rainbow confetti moment. In 2012, a New York Times profile described him as gay and in a 10-year relationship. One sentence? That's it. His truth slipped into the public record like a whisper. Some fans called it classy, others called it cowardly. Why wait until the show was untouchable? Why not use your platform sooner? And maybe that's the tragedy. When you're trapped inside a billion-dollar brand, even honesty feels like a risk assessment. In 2017, they married in New York. After 15 years together, no circus, just commitment. So here's the question. Did Jim protect the show? Or did the show steal years of freedom from him? 5. George Michael and Kenny Goss, the night the sirens outed him, and the love that took the hit. George Michael wasn't just famous, he was worshipped. Voice like velvet, jawline like a scandal, and a career so massive it made the world forget he was still human. But in 1998, the world stopped seeing the artist and started hunting the man. A Beverly Hills sting, an arrest in a public restroom. In seconds, the tabloids had what they wanted. Shame, headlines, laughter, America turning a private moment into public punishment. For a lot of celebrities, that kind of night becomes a funeral for your career. For George, it became a war. He didn't apologize for being who he was. He did something colder and smarter. He turned humiliation into art, releasing Outside, a song and video that mocked the moral panic with disco lights, police uniforms, and a bathroom-turned nightclub. He literally made the cops dance disco ball. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a message. You don't get to punish me and keep my music. And while the world was screaming, Kenny Goss was there, quiet, steady, taking the heat that fame sprays onto anyone standing too close. They were together for about 13 years, from the mid-90s to 2009, trying to build a real relationship in a life designed to break them. Rumors swirled about boundaries, freedom, and whether traditional love could survive inside a pop empire. Some fans judged, some fetishized. And George, already fighting addiction, pressure, and a press that treated gay desire like a punchline, kept performing anyway. Then the quiet tragedy, they split, but the story didn't end. After George died in 2016, Kenny filed a claim for financial provision from the estate, saying dependence, support, and shared life still mattered, even if the love had changed shape. The case later settled out of court in 2021. So what do you believe? Was Kenny the love that stood by him, or just another person swallowed by the gravity of George Michael's fame? Comment your truth and hit subscribe if you're done watching queer people get punished for existing. 6. Richard Chamberlain and Martin Rabbit, the heartthrob who bought his career with silence. Richard Chamberlain was the kind of 1960s star studios dreamed of. Clean-cut, devastatingly handsome, and built to be desired by millions. Dr. Kildare didn't just make him famous, it made him a fantasy. And fantasies come with contracts the public never sees. Because back then, a leading man couldn't be gay. Not socially, not commercially. The message was brutal. Give the audience the dream, or lose everything. So Richard performed 2 roles at once. On screen, the perfect romantic hero. Off screen, the perfect alibi. He learned to smile through interviews where people asked when he'd marry, when he'd have kids, questions that weren't curiosity, but surveillance. Even decades later, he admitted he had to be very careful and very circumspect while protecting that matinee idol image. Then came Martin Rabbit, quiet, younger, a production assistant who met Richard during a Broadway run in the 70s. Their love wasn't built for flashbulbs, it was built for survival. They eventually made a choice that feels like a movie scene: retreat. Hawaii became distance, ocean, defense, a place to breathe without being hunted. But don't let the paradise fool you. Silence is not peace. Silence is work. It's editing every sentence, every photo, every friendship. It's watching your own life like a spy and still loving anyway. And Richard didn't come out until 2003, at 69, after a lifetime of being told the truth would cost him the love of the public. The cruel irony: when the world finally softened, he had already spent most of his youth paying the price. And then, 2025 hit like a final curtain. Richard died in Waimanalo, Hawaii, from complications after a stroke. And Rabbit, his longtime partner, released a statement that reads like poetry. He is free and soaring. So tell us, did Richard owe the world visibility sooner? Or did the world owe him safety first? 7, Nathan Lane and Devlin Elliott, the comedian who was terrified the joke would turn on him. Nathan Lane made a career out of timing. One eyebrow lift, 1 half-second pause, and the room explodes. But the longest pause of his life happened off stage, when being too gay wasn't a punchline. It was a career-ending rumor. Broadway adored him. Hollywood wanted him, as long as he stayed safely unlabeled. Even after The Birdcage proved he could steal a movie in plain sight, the rules stayed cruel. A gay man could be funny, could be a best friend, but rarely the romantic lead. In the 90s, press tours became traps, and one careless quote could turn into a headline you never outran. So Nathan did what so many talented men did. He performed twice, once for the audience, once for the gatekeepers. Then there was Devlin Elliott, younger, private, creative, not hungry for fame. They met in the late 90s and built something that didn't need applause. Quiet dinners, long nights, a life that stayed mostly out of focus while Nathan's face became world famous. Even when the world knew, nobody said it out loud. The glass closet was safer than the truth. Nathan eventually acknowledged he was gay. But notice how the world still framed it like a risk. That's the tragedy. How heavy that risk was. Imagine making people laugh for a living while swallowing your own joy just to keep getting hired. Imagine the math. If you come out, you lose work. If you don't, you lose yourself. In 2015, after nearly 2 decades together, Nathan and Devlin finally married. Not as a publicity stunt, more like a sigh of relief. A simple legal sentence that said, "We exist and we're done asking permission." So here's the debate. Did Nathan wait too long? Or did the world make waiting the only way to survive? Does a public figure owe visibility when visibility used to come with punishment? 8. Matt Bomer and Simon Halls. The Superman dream they wouldn't let him touch. Matt Bomer looks like Hollywood's safe bet. Perfect jawline, perfect shoulders. The kind of face studios put on posters when they want the audience to fall in love on command. And that's exactly why his real life scared them. Before he was a fan favorite in White Collar, Matt was circling a career-defining role. Superman in an early 2000s project. And then, quietly, it slipped away. Not because he couldn't act, not because he wasn't built for the cape, but because back then, whispers about a man's sexuality weren't gossip, they were weapons. Matt has said there was a time when it could be used against you, even if you never said a word. So imagine the pressure. Being asked to play the ultimate straight fantasy while living like a ghost, editing your friendships, your dates, your body language. Because one photo could cost you everything. That's the cruelty of the closet in modern Hollywood. You're not just hiding love, you're hiding proof you're human. And in the middle of that machine was Simon Halls, a publicist, someone who understands exactly how fame chews people up. Their relationship wasn't flashy. It was careful, protective, the kind of love built behind the curtain while everyone in front of it demanded access. When Matt finally acknowledged his family publicly in 2012, it wasn't a big rainbow headline. It was a thank you. A moment of gratitude that turned into a statement. I'm done shrinking. And since then, he and Simon have raised 3 kids, building the normal life the industry once treated like a scandal. Here's the fight for the comments. Should Hollywood ever be allowed to punish an actor for who they love, especially when that actor fits the beauty standard they profit from? And do you think Matt was robbed, or did he dodge a bullet that would have owned him? Drop your take below, hit subscribe, and stay with Silent Fame. Because sometimes the hottest story isn't who got the role. It's who almost did and why. 9. Lee Pace and Matthew Foley. The intrusive question that lit the fuse. Lee Pace was always the kind of actor Hollywood wanted to possess, not understand. Tall, magnetic, leading man, handsome, the type they prefer as a blank canvas. And for years, that's exactly what he tried to be. A private life, a public craft, no labels for strangers to weaponize. But the glass closet era doesn't let you stay neutral. It turns silence into a rumor mill. It makes every interview feel like an interrogation disguised as curiosity. And for Lee, the breaking point wasn't a scandal, it was the entitlement. At one moment, his private life got dragged into the spotlight by other people's loose mouths. Suddenly, the world felt allowed to discuss him like a topic, not a person. Then came the questions. Persistent, pointed, hungry, the kind that don't ask, "Are you okay?" but "Can we own your truth now?" And Lee snapped back the only way a man protecting his dignity can, with a boundary. I find your question intrusive. Not because he was ashamed, because he was tired. Tired of being reduced. Tired of being treated like an exhibit. Tired of a world that screams, "Be yourself." But only if it fits their narrative. That's the tragedy nobody talks about. Coming out can be liberation. But being forced into explaining yourself is another closet, just made of microphones instead of fear. Then, quietly, on his timeline, Lee reclaimed the story. A marriage, a life, a home away from the noise. And in the years after, he started showing a different kind of confidence. Not the performative, "look at me" kind, but the steady, "I don't owe you" kind. The masculinity they once implied queer men couldn't have. He wore it like armor, not approval. If you believe boundaries are brave, hit subscribe. Silent Fame isn't about exposing people. It's about seeing what they survived. 10. Tab Hunter and Alan Glazer, the boy next door who was never allowed to be himself. Tab Hunter was manufactured perfection, blonde, blue-eyed, all-American, the kind of 1950s heartthrob studios sold like a national product. They didn't just cast him in movies. They cast him as a fantasy for women, a symbol for men, and a lie for everyone. And lies take maintenance. Back then, being gay wasn't a private detail. It was a threat to your entire existence. The studio system didn't just prefer you straight. It required it. Dates were arranged, headlines were managed, smiles were rehearsed, and gossip magazines hunted stars like predators, promising ruin in exchange for sales. Imagine waking up every day knowing that one photo, one rumor, one wrong friend could end your career. Overnight. Tab later admitted the truth. He loved men. He even described a relationship with another young star, Anthony Perkins, two famous faces forced to keep their affection in the shadows, like criminals. Not because love was wrong, but because the world was. And then comes the part that hits hardest. After a life built on pretending, Tab found something real. Alan Glazer. Not a fling, not a headline. A decades-long partnership that survived the era that tried to erase them both. While the world moved slowly toward acceptance, Tab and Alan were already living the marriage in everything but paperwork. Loyalty, routines, sickness, aging, the quiet devotion nobody writes fan mail about. Then, when the law finally caught up with what they already were, they made it official. After all those years of fear, they married in 2013. Not for attention, for dignity, for truth, for the simple right to say, "This is my person, and you don't get to vote on it." That's the lesson Tab leaves behind. They tried to sell him as a fantasy, but he died as a full human being. So after everything, contracts, whispers, threats, and the brutal price of being seen, what's the real lesson? That love isn't a headline, it's a decision. If you've ever had to shrink yourself to be accepted, remember this: you still deserve happiness, and you don't need permission to exist. Now I want your honest take. Who was treated the most unfairly, and which couple moved you the most? Comment below, subscribe, and we'll meet again on Silent Fame.